No.
All right.
I love this guy.
All right. Good morning, everybody. So we left off yesterday. Today's daf Ches Maseres Chagiga. The top 2 lines from the top. So Omar Mar, and away we go. Omar Mar Beis Hillel Emrin Mina Meiser. So now we had a machlokes yesterday about when person brings different karbanos. Specifically, we were talking about perhaps the chagiga, bringing it on certain times over the holiday. And so the question was, where do you bring it from? You have to bring it from chulin. Can you also bring it from meiser? In other words, kesef, meiser sheni. So we mentioned Beis Hillel says mina meiser. So Gemara wants to know, how could you go ahead and bring a chagiga from meiser? Why can you bring that? It says over there, it's a it's an obligation. And something which is obligatory can only be brought from chulin funds, right? Cannot be brought from something which is already consecrated or something which already has kedusha. You have to bring from your own money. So Ula b'teifel. So Ula says b'teifel. We're talking about where it's tafel, in other words, it's mixed in, right, with other money. In other words, it's meiser behema, or right, meiser sheni, meiser sheni, mixed with chulin. Now, there's a machlokes what this means b'teifel. Let's see. Chizki Amar teiflin behema lebehema. According to Chizki, what it means is that when you have multiple karbanos, so you can bring one of your shalmei chagiga, you can bring that from your chulin, and the other animals can come from kesef meiser sheni. So he says mi behema lebehema. Sounds like only behema lebehema. Ve'ein teiflin, right? It doesn't sound like he says fair. Ve'ein teiflin ma'is lemos. But you can't use other funds. In other words, if I'm going to buy an animal for $200, I can't take $40 of my chulin money to $160 for my leftover kesef meiser sheni, right? Rather, if we're doing money, all the money for the animal has to be from chulin. But if I'm bringing multiple animals, then I can mix in animals from kesef meiser sheni. That was Chizkiah. And Rabbi Yochanan Omar, teiflin mos lemos. No, you don't do animals. You can mix money. Take the money. In the case of $200 case, $40 from your chulin, $160 from your kesef meiser sheni, and that's how you do it. But you can't do it before
too. He was makel before too, right? I mean, in the other subject.
Who?
Rabbi Yochanan.
In which case?
The case before we learned this.
Yeah.
It was makel that you can mix too. That you can.
Right. So explaining how you go ahead and mix it. Right. So over here we're talking about. He means that which we say they can use all that. It means using kesef meiser sheni, not animal. No, not for this application, because the animal can't come from it. That's already been set aside. We'll soon see about meiser behema. So Tani Kavasi the Chizkiah, Tani Kavasi the Rabbi Yochanan. We have a Bryson sport of Chizkiah, Bryson sport of Rabbi Yochanan. First comes the second one, Tani Kavasi the Rabbi Yochanan. It says, the pasuk says, misas. So we'll soon see, right? The pasuk says, right, misas nidvas yadach, right? So it says misas. So misas, we learn from Milamed Shadam maybe chabasim in a chulin. Misas is like from his money, right? We'll soon see where that lashon comes from. But Milamed Shadam maybe chabasim in a chulin, right? We're assuming now it means from chulin, from his own funds. And wherever you see, if he wants to go ahead and mix in other money, such as kesef meiser sheni, he can go ahead and mix it in with his chulin money. Tamaleimar. Like Hashem blessed you, whatever He blessed you with. So if He blessed you with kesef meiser sheni, you could also use that not only from your own personal funds, but even your kesef meiser sheni funds. So that was the proof of Rabbi Yochanan that says you're allowed to go ahead and mix in kesef meiser sheni. And Tani Kavasi the Chizkiah, Bryson sport of Chizkiah. It says misas melamed she'adam mevin chavasim min chulin. It can only come min chulin. And Beis Shammai Oimrim. Now Beis Shammai says Yom Rishon min chulin. Beis Shammai says the entire first day is it can only be brought from chulin, because that's the day of the obligation. Mikan ve'elach, because it says over there, right? You should celebrate on that day being the first day. However, mikan ve'elach, but after the first day, min hamais. You can go ahead and bring from kesef. You can go ahead and bring from kesef meiser sheni. Ubeis halayimim achilo rishayna min chulin. So he doesn't say Yom Rishon min chulin, right? It took me like a couple minutes. Like, wait, what's the difference? Achil Rishon min chulin. In other words, the first eating. In other words, the first part. If you bring multiple karbanos on day one, right? They only the first animal, your first eating is chulin, but the other stuff, even on the first day, could be even from Meiser Shein. And even the other days of Pesach, Adam Yaitse de Chavasa b'Meiser behema. He can go ahead and fulfill his obligation from Meiser behema. In other words, if he has animals from Meiser behema, so over there we said there's a requirement to be Mesameach, to Simcha, right? So if you don't have, you being a Shamei Simcha to go ahead and have meat in order to eat the meat. But if you already have animals, right, from Meiser behema, you can go ahead and eat that meat, and that can provide your Simcha. So the to my time alone. But it's chagigos. No, only in place of Simcha. In place, right? Right. So the rest of for my same, right? Now beyond to my time alone, why can't you bring the Meiser behema then? My time alone. So I'm Ravashi Duma Asila Asuri. You can bring the other animals then because you might come to be to take Meiser behema beyond to. The Efshar Lasa beyond to Mishum sea crossing. You can't go ahead and take Meiser Zeni, right? Because if we allow you to have Meiser behema, a person might say, "Oh, let me just go take some more Meiser behema." One of these Meiser behemas, you have to mark the animals with a dye, right? So you can't do that in Yantif. So therefore, we don't want people to go ahead and use animals that are Meiser behema on Yantif. Why? Because they might come separate the animals on Yantif, and that includes marking the animal, which they can't do, which is be prohibited on Yantif. Fine. Now, my mashma the high misas lishna the chulin. So what do you see that? The Bas says, "Vayosem hamelach Achashverosh mas al aretz." So it says over there, Achashverosh he placed a mas like a tax, right? The money al aretz. So you see that mas misas comes is the lashon of money, right? So you say from your own money. So misas from the lashon of Vayosem Achashverosh mas al aretz. Fine. Very good. 2 dots, right? Also, remember when as a child, but you have to pay your mass, right? Pay your mass, right? Yeah. Fine. Yisrael So he said the Yisrael, a non-Kohen, right? Go ahead and fulfill his meat obligations by bringing the Nedarim and Davos Satan Abanim. Pasuk says, "V'samachtu b'chagecha l'rabbis kamines simchas l'simcha." So anything, any type of meat, go ahead. This includes from simchas. Mekan amr from here we say that you still can go ahead and fill his obligation of simcha with nedarim. He made a neder he has to bring, or a nedava, or a specific animal, right? That he was going to go ahead and bring, or ma'aser behema. He has extra animals for ma'aser behema, the 10th of his animals. Kohanim and the Kohanim can fill his obligation. The chatas, right, with meat from the chatas they were given for asham, bechor, or from bechor because of a shoik. Or from the parts, the different matanos, right? The thigh, right, and they're given to the kohanim, right, the breast and the thigh. You might think also even birds and flower offerings. Therefore, it says v'samachta b'chagecha. Use the word b'chagecha. Turn the page. Mishachagiga ba mehem. Only something that a chagiga could potentially brought for them. But that would exclude, let's say, flower offerings or bird offerings that you cannot go ahead and bring your mincha, your chagiga from there. Therefore, you can't use those. And Rav Ashi Amar v'samachta nafku from v'samachta. So yatzei l'shem ben simcha. Only those things that don't have simcha because that is aim simcha l'vasar, and that's not considered to be meat. I Rav Ashi hi b'chagecha my. So he's doing b'chagecha. So if he uses it if he doesn't use that, he uses the lashon the lashon of simcha. So from the samach. So what he's doing with the chagecha my. I hope look at Rav Daniel bar Katina. The Rav Daniel bar Katina Amarav. Minayin shei naisin nashim b'moed. Where do you see that? How do you know that a person should not go ahead and marry a woman during Chol Moed? Shinamar says v'samachta b'chagecha. You shall rejoice in this time with your holiday, and now with your wife. Now is the only time. You should be celebrating here, celebrating the holiday, and not celebrating a new wife. Therefore, one should not go ahead and get married on Chol Moed. Fine. Now Mishnah. Mishnah says, right? Person who has a lot of eaters, right, and not a lot of money, right? There's no Kiwi kids, right? He has a lot of eaters, not a lot of money. Maybe shlamim merubim the olos muatim. You know what you should do when you bring your kabbalas? Bring a lot of shlamim because shlamim you go ahead and eat from, and bring little olos because olos are completely consumed on these bech, and there's no benefit to your family members because they can't eat from it. If you got a lot of money but don't have a lot of eaters, so maybe olos merubas the shlamim muatim. Then go ahead and bring plenty of olos because those are considered bech, and you don't need so many shlamim because you don't have a lot of eaters. The zev muat, right? if you have if you have a little bit of eaters and a little bit of money, that's what we're talking about. Bring the minimum of a mal kesef and the shtei kesef. That was the minimum because all you bring what you have to bring the minimum because you don't need a lot of eaters and therefore you don't have a lot of money. Don't waste your money. Zev Rubim, person has a lot of money and he's blessed with a lot of family members to eat. So I'll say Nemar, and this it says, right? So it says over there that every person, according to he can give what he wants, that which he is blessed with. He's been blessed with a lot, so he can go ahead and bring a lot in terms of a lot of shlamim and olos. Fine. So shlamim merubim mehechamaisila. You just said a guy with a lot of money, a lot of eaters, to go ahead and bring a lot of shlamim. Well, how does he doesn't have a lot of money? Where's he going to get all this meat from, right? These animals. So he has no money. So Rav Chizda Teufel. So says Rav Chizda on that which we said in Amud Aleph, right? We had the machlokas. So I hope we didn't forget it because machlokas over there was by Teufel, right? Ula says we're talking about a case of the fee Beis Hillel. A person's allowed to go ahead and mix in Ma'aser Sheni. And we had a machlokas over there between Chizkiah and Rabbi Yochanan, whether it's mixing in other animals with this one animal, or is it mixing in monies with the one money and then buying the animal together? Now, so maybe par gadol, and so he's Teufel and maybe par gadol. So he mixes it and brings a par gadol, one large bull. All right. So it sounds like what's he mixing? He sounds like he's mixing money, right? Now, so I'm really Rav Sheshes, Hari Amru, Teuflin Behema Behema. So Rav Sheshes says to him, what do you mean? We said you got to go ahead and mix animals with animals. You don't need to buy a large animal with all the monies, right? Why just go ahead and bring one animal from Chulin and the rest from Ma'aser Sheni? So my Kamar Le, what's Rav Sheshes saying to him? If he's telling him, hey, why are you going ahead and mixing, right? That you're only allowed to go ahead and mix animals and you're not allowed to go ahead and mix money and therefore buy a large bull. Why does he say to him, Ain Teuflin Mos Lamos? Why is he telling him, Teuflin Behema LeBehema, right? You're allowed to go ahead and mix, bring in more animals. He should have said to him, you're not allowed to mix money. But he didn't say that. So, but he said, you're allowed to mix animals. But if he was telling him you did it wrong and you shouldn't have bought a large animal, right? So he should have told him you're not allowed to mix money. So he said to him, Hare Amru, Af Teuflin Behema LeBehema. Basically, what he's saying to him is, you're even allowed to mix money. That was a chiddush here, right? He's saying you mixed money, right? You're even allowed to go ahead and mix animals, bring in multiple animals. No, both are mutter. So come on, because if you look back when we read Chizkiah and Rabbi Yochanan, each one said, when Chizkiah says you can mix animals, but you can't mix money. And Rabbi Yochanan says you can mix money, but you can't mix animals. And Rav Sheshes seems to say, right, not only you wanted to mix money because you bought a big bull, you could have even mixed animals. He's saying you could have done both. So he's saying, come on, maybe it's only the Amorai, Mechizkiah, and Rabbi Yochanan who argued. However, but the Brisas were not arguing one another. It says over there, Achila Rishona has to be Mina Chulin, right? And over there, so the Chila Rishona was on day one, right? And if you look the first meal on day one, the obligatory chagiga, right? Because I'm just looking at Rashi for a second. It says the Suda Haba Rishon al Shulchan by Mechulin. Only that needs Chulin. And therefore, on that, there was a machlokas as to whether it was the first day or the first eating. So Maya Chila Rishona. So what do you see over there? You see that they were also arguing over there because they came to argue that no, the first day can't be a mixture, right? The Chila Rishona has to be only from Chulin. So Maya Chila Rishona says no, maybe not. But the Chila Rishona maybe meant Shir Demei Achila Rishona Min Achula. Maybe it meant only the value of the first Achila. In other words, that was the minimum requirement. So if you hold like Beis Hillel is Shtei Mal Kesef, right? Then all the 2 Mal Kesef had to be from Chulin. Everything else was allowed to be mixed up. So therefore, according to this, what we're saying now is that that even on day one, a person could, after the initial eating, Rav Sheshes is coming to say that you can even go ahead and mix money or mix animals, and that's what he was correcting over there. And Omar Ula Omar Reish Lakish Hefesh Eser Behemas LeChagigaso. So if one goes ahead and separates, designates 10 animals for his chagiga. So he kriv chamesh b'yontav rishon Chayzer u'makiv chamesh b'yontav sheni. He goes ahead and let's say he offers 5 on day 1. He can continue offering the other 5, through the second yontav, i.e., a week later, and also even Chol Moed, right? Including Chol Moed, it's not excluding Chol Moed. So you're allowed to go ahead and offer those karbanos after day 1. That's what we're saying here. Mm-hmm. So if you have 10 of them, 5 you bring on day 1, the other 5 you continue bringing. Now, Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Kevan Shapasak Shuv Eino Makriv. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, you can't. There's an issue here. What's the issue here? The issue here is Baltosi. That one, if the Torah says, right? The Torah says, V'chagosem oso, right? It says V'chagosem oso, right? Celebrate it. One day you bring it. But it appears if the person is bringing multiple days, it appears he's adding days to what the Torah obligated him to go ahead and do. So it appears that he's bringing his chagiga on multiple days. And therefore, that'll be Pama Bal Taisif. So once he stops on day 1, he can no longer go ahead and continue. That was Rabbi Yochanan. So Amar Rabbi Abba v'lei pligi. No, it's not machlokes. Kan b'stam, kan b'mefarish. Right. So over here is the stam. If the person brought it stam, all right, without saying it that it was from day. Without saying it's from day 1. So if he brought a stam, then we think that he's adding to it, right? We think that since he's bringing 5 on day 1 and then 5 a week later, we'll think that he's celebrating it 2 different days. That's Baltosi. But he's Mefarish, he's saying, I'm bringing all 10 of these for the first day. And for whatever reason, we'll soon see that he didn't have the ability to bring all 10 on the first day. He only brought 5. He can continue bringing 5 because those are basically tashlumin for the previous days. Those are part of the original korban. So we'll soon see how he was able to do it.
What korban is he bringing?
He's bringing the chagiga over here on the first day, the Shamei chagiga. Now, let's see. Comes out and hey chidami. So what's the case? If he didn't have enough time in the day to offer all 10, he only got to 5 of them. Right? It's obvious. It's not Baltosif. The reason why he didn't offer 10 is because he only had time for 5. Maybe he didn't have enough eaters. So if he didn't have enough eaters, it also makes sense why he only offered 5 and not 10 because he didn't want to go to waste. So like the east lay Eichlin. No, we're talking about a case of where he had plenty of time and he had plenty of eaters and he still only offered 5. Mm-hmm. So therefore, in that case, the next day we'll say it's Baltosif because the reason why he didn't do it is because maybe he's like adding days where he's supposed to do it. So therefore, Rabbi Yochanan would apply that. So on those days, like even on that days, he cannot go ahead and bring more Shema Mina. So Shir Sharina. So we say over there. So he has both. So therefore, Shema Mina, Shir Sharina. So therefore, it must be that the reason why he didn't offer is because he was leaving over the next day, which would which would be a problem. And the Hachinami Mistav is also logical to say that it's really not arguing. But they really, one is the case of Stam, one is a Furish. If he says Stam and he has plenty of time extra and he doesn't offer it, it's obvious he's being over-violating Baltosif. But if he's Mefarish, says, I'm going to bring these 10 all for the first day. For whatever reason, he doesn't bring the rest of them, so they'll be okay to continue to bring it up. A person separates 10 animals for his Chagiga. He offers the first 5 on Yom Tov Rishon. He can go ahead and offer the other 5 animals even on Yom Tov Sheni, right? Let's say at the second day or the last day of Pesach. Kasha Dadi. It's a steer. We said earlier you can't do it, right? So love Shmamino Kabastam Kamafarish Shmamino. Indeed, if it's Bastam, he doesn't say it's all for the first day and then it's left over. Then we can assume it's violating Baltosi. Whereas Mefarish is all for day 1, and then he doesn't have the time, and then so he brings the next day. Therefore, it's like Mefarish. And Itamar now is going to learn Amar Rav Shimon Bar Abba Amar Rav Yochanan, which is going to the Mishnah Lo Yishanu El Shelo Gomar. It says Shelo Gomar. We'll soon see what that means, but he didn't complete, right? Aval Gomar Chayzer Maki. But if he was Gomar, then he can continue offering the next days. So my Gomar, what does it mean? He didn't finish. Ilem Gomar Kavanah Sub. If it means that he finished his animals, he can give the next day. So my makrif, if he finished them, he finished Ella Shalom Gomar Hayom, meaning the day didn't end, right? If the day didn't end, then he can't do it anymore. But if the day ends and he has no more time and he still has extra animals, it's obvious that these animals were really meant for day one, but it just became night too early. And the reason why I brought the next day was not because he was violating Baal Tosif, rather it was because he didn't have time to finish it on the day one, but rather it was just a continuation. But if the day ends on him and he has extra kabbanos, then he can go ahead and finish. We'll stop here. Tomorrow, we will continue.